simulated therapy session that we watched.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. And the idea is to talk about the principles that were gone over, or like that were portrayed in the video, and
the things found in the article.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then there are some questions. There's the questions that we can ask. So,
where are those questions? I guess I didn't see those.
Yeah, here, let me find them.
So I'm pulling them up right now.
Okay.
I'm just gonna, do you guys want me to do the scribe work?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That'd be great.
Okay. So I've got the questions pulled up. I think if you're all right with this, I think what we can do is just point like and answer each question as far as like layout of the write-up. I don't know.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah. That will work.
Are there only 4 questions, or did I miss? Yeah. So I only have 4 questions here. Does that sound right?
Sorry,
I can't find any questions, so.
I have them too. I had them out.
I guess so.
So it's right. It's beneath the video in part 3.
Yeah.
It like says what you would do.
Yeah, I see 4.
Do the following during the discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I see that now.
For like questions. Well, not all of them are questions.
Yeah.
Okie doke.
I feel really unprepared. I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're fine. I'm like still messing with this video thing, and I'm just checking it out here because I don't. Can you guys see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can only see myself. So, so somehow when I clicked.
Well, that's a letdown.
Yeah, for real. You have no idea, no?
Totally kidding. Totally kidding.
So I'm not sure how to get you guys. Okay.
I don't know how I did it, so I don't know.
There you are. You're there. I see you.
I just accepted the call.
Okay.
Are you seeing us yet?
Yeah, I see you.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So the first question is, or prompt is, take turns talking about the points you identified, both the overt references and the subtler ones, the more subtle ones. Okay, points on what? Now I'm like confused.
Can you read that again for me?
Yeah. Okay, so it says take turns talking about the points you identified, both the overt references and the more subtle ones. So this is because it asked us to, it said, as you watch the video, mark each of the points from the article that you see touched upon in the therapy session as it takes place.
One of the things that I noticed, I don't know if I did a super good job of that, but one of the things that I noticed was, I think it's under the core principles for strengthening relational resilience. And it was number 2 in that list of 4 things. I mean, I hope I'm in the right document. That would be embarrassing.
It was the chapter 6 one, I think.
Yeah, okay. One that was like 40 pages. At least
Yes.
that's what it said.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Forever long.
But so reducing negative chain reactions that heighten risk for sustained impact and further crisis. I know they talked a lot about how, you know, at the end of the night when Jimmy comes home late and dad gets upset and it's all just this. And then in the end, they talked about ways of, and I don't think they like explicitly about ways of other times when they can communicate about what's going on and what they're doing, and in that way that reduces the negative chain reactions that are happening to make things even worse, which it seemed like the whole reason, one of the biggest reasons they were there is because they weren't, I mean, the arguing was really high and that was affecting a whole lot. So that's one of the big things that I noticed, was that number 2 on the list there.
Like trying to pull it up real quick.
And it's on page 5.
So
Yeah.
number 2. Where am I?
On page 5.
Yeah, I mean, if it's online, it's like page 5 out of 40, but it's, I guess, page 135.
Oh.
There we go. I was on the wrong page too.
Yeah.
So reducing the negative chain reactions that heighten risk for sustained impact and further crises.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think like in the end, that's kind of where I see it. In the end, that's where the big thing accumulated to was, okay, well, mom and dad need to go on a date. You know, Jimmy and dad need to spend time together talking about their future, and brother and sister need to spend time together and just have conversations that don't include tough subjects. But then at the same time, setting aside time to talk about those tough subjects, but having it be a set time so that you know, okay, this is what we're going to talk about it, and we can be calm about it.
I think too, and I think this is partly from my other class, because sometimes they go together, but is looking at the positive. And so that therapist went back and looked at what worked before. What did you guys do before that you had that communication process going? And let's go back and do those things. Hey, sister, why don't you go out and have a soda with them? And he focused on those positive aspects that they used to have. And he kind of pushed them towards that.
Yeah. I think like that's kind of number 4 on that same list is bolstering family and individual esteem and efficacy through successful problem mastery.
Right.
And so like realizing that these are some of the things that we have done that have worked. Let's do them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what classes you guys are doing, but have you guys read the 7 principles for making marriage work yet? I think that's 400. So, you know, in there he talks about how as a therapist, we always focus on the negative and what we need to fix rather than focus on the positive things we had and find those things again. So I think that's what that counselor was kind of, you know, look at what we did have and let's keep going in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the communication of the yelling, that wasn't getting anybody anywhere but hurt. And they don't love me because all they do is scream, and that's all they were doing was screaming at each other. And that wasn't making anybody
which is again reducing the negative chain reactions.
Exactly.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another thing that was touched on there at the end is he wanted to set up a time to meet again to talk about, you know, how everything went. And I think that's page 136, the next page, where it says tracking stressors and coping/adaptation processes over time. Just, you know, seeing, okay, what's working, what do we need to change to make it work better? That same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I just thought that was stop working.
That's good.
Yeah, just that follow-up meeting to me was kind of a flag of, oh, they're keeping track of, you know, what is going on.
Right. They had to answer for, are we going to follow through with? You know?
Right. Right.
Yeah. I mean, he did talk about too and pull out like the stressors and kind of breaking that down of what was going on and how they all felt and what was causing this and all of that too. He broke all of that down. The crisis of what was going on in their family, which was Jimmy, you know, and his choices.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember where it says it. I liked how the therapist kept like asking, like he would kept clarifying and like repeating back, like, is this what I'm hearing right? And I remember there was a part, okay, like making meaning of crisis experiences, like that was the second one. Like he constantly was asking them, like the way the article says it is like to ask questions like what stood out for you instead of like him making his own assumptions about what's going on. He would first ask them to kind of define what was going on, and then he would repeat it back and like just kind of help them really understand what even the problem was. Like the wife or the mom didn't even realize that the son was feeling like he wasn't loved, and the son didn't fully understand that the reason why they're like so upset and worried about him is because they love him. Like, so I think that he really helped them really understand that and just make sense of what even is going on. Why, like, what's the crisis here? So
yeah,
that was one of the biggest ones I kept noticing.
Yeah, like the clarifying ambiguity kind of thing.
Ambiguity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was nice because that's in that clarifying and ambiguity thing that, you know, they finally started to realize what the things that were going on, what they actually meant. Like the mom said, oh, I actually get it, you know? So they were gaining information about how the other members of the family were feeling, what their feelings were, and how, you know, the anxiety and the different things that each one was feeling.
Yeah, that kind of goes along with, it's on page 145, but reframing and relabeling, realizing what's actually going on and the meaning of the different behaviors or actions of the parties involved.
Yeah, that's good. I think too, something he did, and I'm not sure where, under the depthology and the contextualizing the problem situation, that he told them that this is normal, you know, this happens, they're normal, he's changing, he's 18, life is changing, but this is normal. My family's the same way, and, you know, kind of thing. So they didn't feel like they were so far out of the box.
Say what that one was called again so I can write it down.
It's on page 13. It's under the 143, that page. The pathologize, you say that word. The pathologizing, devolvizing, and contextualizing, yeah, the problem situation. And so if you go down a little bit, it talks about ordinary families worry about their own normality. So I noticed that was something that he did. He reiterated to them that, you know, this is normal. So that all families have issues. So, you know, families come into therapy feeling abnormal, it says, but he reassured them that, you know, and he asked them, how did you feel now that you've come in here? You know, and they all had come in nervous, and they were all, and then by the time they were done, they felt better. So.
Yeah, I really liked that too. Like, he also even pointed out like when the son mentioned feeling like his family doesn't love him, and so that's why he just wants to leave. Like, he mentioned, like, you know, if I was feeling that way about if my parents made me feel that way, I would do the same thing. I would leave. Like, he helped kind of relate with them. I'm trying to remember what that one was called. If I can remember that one. I didn't take very good notes.
Me neither, to be honest.
To be honest.
Hey, you're being recorded. Careful. No, I'm just kidding.
True.
Yeah.
Dang it. Man, now he knows.
Yeah, that's all right. It was kind of hard because I didn't want to print the 40 pages, and I really like to highlight stuff and write notes, but I didn't want to print the 40 pages. So I've been like, isn't that awful?
Oh, I agree.
Even though I can do it front to back, and it would have only been 20, like, I really contemplated it, but I didn't want to waste the ink.
Gotta save the trees.
Right, exactly.
I printed mine because I can't read it on the computer. I get a headache.
Oh, how funny. I wish there was a way that they had these documents where we could highlight them and stuff on the computer.
That would be nice.
I know, yeah.
Well, I'm not finding it, but if I find it, I'll bring it back up.
Okay.
Explain again what you were talking about.
Like, he just, like, helped relate with them. Like, when the son was saying that he leaves the house because he just doesn't feel loved or cared about, he kind of said the same thing. Like, yeah, if I didn't, my mom just, I was feeling like there was something that said that. I'm not
Just like validating the way they were feeling.
Yeah, maybe that was what it's called.
I don't know. I don't see that anywhere. I mean,
I know. I thought I saw it.
probably in there somewhere.
I'm probably going crazy. I swear I read it. Connectedness. Maybe that's what I was kind of thinking. Oh well. Oh well. Anyway, are there any other things that you guys noticed or noted?
Page 154, encouraging shared efforts, concrete steps, and perseverance. It was definitely towards the end there. He talked like the certain things that he wanted them to do were definitely concrete steps, and they were definitely shared efforts. If they were both gonna, I mean, if the whole family was, how am I supposed to say this? If one person was gonna get better, the whole family had to get better, you know?
Sure.
One thing that I noticed is at Jimmy's attitude, or maybe not his attitude, but like his countenance, I guess you could say, as to when he, at the beginning of the session, at the end of the session, to me, he almost seemed like really relieved and really like hopeful, I guess, that things would be better. I don't know if you guys noticed the same thing, but I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
I think he was validated by the therapist a little bit, like, oh, that's how you feel, and that's okay, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's kind of made him feel better, as, oh, you know what? Yeah, I can say I don't feel like they love me, you know? So,
right. Yeah.
So I think he was being validated by somebody else, where probably all he was getting from his parents was, you know, backlashing. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be really hard to hear. You come into the session, well, why is your family here? Oh, because of Jimmy.
Right.
Ouch.
Right.
You know, it probably felt like they were all gang up against him, you know?
And I think that's how we look at things rather than. Yeah. That's funny.
I didn't catch what you said, Heidi.
Oh, I said I didn't see that coming. I was like, whoa, what the?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're all here because of him.
I know, I felt bad for him. Like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. How awkward for him. Poor guy.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, that would be frustrating because, I mean, I have teenagers and they just know better. So I don't know, you know, I don't know. It's kind of a common sense thing. Of course, your parents want to know where you're at, you know, even if you're 18, but if you live under your, I was 32 and we moved in with my parents for 3 months. We were in between houses and she worried when we weren't home. She too in her house, so they just want to know where you're at and that you're okay.
Right. That was the rule for us in our house. Is like 18. Yeah, you had to keep the curfew, but when you turned 18, you could, you know, do whatever you wanted, but you had to let the parents know where you were going and what you were doing.
Right. Yeah. Yep. That's the rule.
Yeah, it seemed kind of a little over the top.
Yeah.
But
I think maybe
it was mostly that I'm sure was hard for the mom and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, so the next, sorry, is there any other points you guys noticed that you want to bring up before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I think that's lots.
Okay.
We discussed
Yeah,
lots.
we have a lot here. Yeah, we have a lot. So the next one, it just says, note the trends of your findings as a group. Did everyone identify the same points, or were there points that not everyone caught? So I don't know if we need to write anything about that. I don't know.
I think we pretty much all agree. You could just write that, you know, we pretty much, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily all found the same points, but we all agreed on the points that we did find.
Right, exactly. You could say something to that effect. I mean, there's all kinds of things. We could probably go on and on and on. I mean, there's this, you know, this article is 40 pages long and it's filled with awesome information that relates to that session. So, I mean, I noticed a ton of things, you know, the very beginning part of where he kind of spent the first, maybe 5 minutes just getting to know them and what do you like to do and, you know, trying to make them comfortable, and which I think would totally make me uncomfortable, but that's, you know, that's me. But so it was almost like he was trying too hard, but anyways, I mean, it was nice. And so he did that whole part, and, you know, I mean, we could go on and on of breaking the whole thing down. So I think for the most part, we agree with all the points that we brought up, so.
Yeah. He kind of helped establish a timeline too, though, that way, like, okay, like, where are you guys at right now? What are you doing? Like, what's kind of your situation in life?
Yeah.
So that he can kind of understand where they're coming from when they start talking about the crisis, which is kind of what the beginning of the article talked about too. Actually, we probably would put that down if we wanted to.
Yeah.
No, but I agree. I think we could really just go on and on because he did a great job. He really just kind of excelled. So.
Yeah, he even talked about what did you guys used to do as a family before you moved here and what brought you here. And I mean, he you know, he hit it all, so.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, the next question is, talk about your observations. Was anyone surprised by the findings or observations?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say surprised, but I definitely learned some, maybe not learned, but realized other observations from the ones that you guys thought of. Like, I didn't even think about the very beginning and how he just got to know everybody at first. I just thought, oh yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he doesn't know him. But I feel like that's also a crucial piece in them being comfortable throughout the whole session.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one for me.
Yeah. And I think, too, the other one that you brought up earlier was to, you know, listen. He listened to what they said and then he reiterated. So this is what I'm understanding. This is how you feel, you know? And he would even reword it, because I think, like, I noticed some of the younger teenagers, I think they would try to say it, but it was like they didn't quite know how. So when he reiterated it back to them, this is kind of what I'm getting, how you feel, you know, kind of thing. And they would be like, yes. So he kind of said it back to them in a different way, and they totally agreed with him.
Yeah, I agree.
So he didn't try to put, you know, words in their mouth or anything like that. He listened and said, okay, so this is what I'm understanding.
Sorry, I gotta go grab my charger. I can't find it really quick.
You're good.
You're fine. I loved that part where, oh man, I'm trying to remember now. The part where the therapist was, while he was reiterating like what they had said, he kind of took a little liberty and was like, kind of said like, and if I can say this, it seems like you are hurt by this as well. Like he kind of did make a slight assumption, but he asked for like approval, like, you know, am I correct here? I like that he did take, like he was just so observant, like he was watching their facial expressions and their body language and just everything, and really intuitive to like how they were feeling too. And so not only was he really good at just reiterating what they were saying, but also kind of clarifying his interpretation of what they're even feeling about the things that they were saying.
Yeah.
Too. I'm trying to remember the exact, like the specific on why he said that, but
yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys remember him saying that?
Yes, there were a few times that he did that.
Yeah.
That he said that back. The other thing too that he did in talking about the body language and reading them was that, you know, you noticed when they came in, Jimmy sat in the chair all by himself, and he had them switch seats. Okay, mom and dad sit by each other. Here, you know, mom and dad are arguing. They don't really disagree. It's mom, daughter, dad, and he had them switch. And then dad put his arm around mom, I noticed, and things that showed that they're caring and there's still love there. And you know, they just need to talk about it and get it worked out. And then he had brother move over, and you know, and I think that kind of brought them closer together rather than him being that outcast on that outside chair. So that was interesting, his whole seating arrangement, movement thing.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting too. It makes you think of like how indicative it is of like the strength or weakness of relationships based on non-verbal language, you know?
Yeah.
Mom and dad weren't sitting together, brother and sister were sitting together, brother was sitting farthest away. What does that say about what's going on, you know? That's interesting.
Yeah, what was interesting too is that it wasn't necessarily like dad, and I think this is a male thing, but you know, dad wasn't quite as concerned if son was out late, like what's the big deal? I think mom's kind of overreacting, but dad's concern is mom is upset about it, and he loves mom, so that was his concern, is mom's not happy, and she's my wife, and so we need to kind of fix this, you know, even though he wasn't as concerned, which I think is a male-female thing, so.
Sure.
I'm just like writing all this down.
Yeah, no worries. You know, the whole thing we're talking about is being, you know, family resilience and being resilient as a family. And I think, and maybe I'm reaching here, but I think because they did have that family bond, they did have that camping time, sister and brother did have that relationship before, mom and dad did have that relationship with their children. So I think it was easier because they had built that resilience before and they had that to look back on, that it won't be too hard for them to get back on track as well.
Yeah, I agree. Having that foundation of good relationship that they can fall back to and realize that, hey, we've been in a good spot before, we can be in a good spot again is really helpful.
Exactly. Except for, you know, unlike dad, who dad said, yeah, I had parents who didn't even care. You know,
right.
They didn't go there because they had parents that cared and they had that family time, that they knew what it was like. And that's what they realized, we don't have that anymore. And that's what they wanted back.
Yeah.
I think that was really good for the wife to hear that about her husband, because she was probably frustrated that she wasn't getting as much support from him, because he was just kind of like the son, like who cares, like he's 18. I'm sure that really helped her more understand like where he was coming from and why he wasn't so concerned. Like we didn't talk about this in my family.
Right. Yeah.
Like I feel like she, out of all of them, I feel like she was the one who benefited the most from the session. Second by the son. I think he really benefited too after that. I don't know. I just feel like they needed to get a say in, and that was and they benefited from it too.
And they needed to, because it seemed like mom and son couldn't do anything but yell and argue with each other.
Yeah. There was no other communication besides an argument.
Yeah, and she even said, you know, when we would try to talk, it always turned into an argument.
Okay. Any other observations you guys want to talk about, or are we kind of good there?
I think we're good.
Okay. Agreed. So the next question then, it says, discuss and record how a treatment professional or paraprofessional might prepare to capitalize on such opportunities to introduce or reinforce these types of resiliency factors from Walsh's article. So basically discuss how a professional can use the points that we've brought up in this article.
Well, I feel like
That's a silly question, because isn't that what we're doing?
that's what I thought. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the therapists that use the points that we just were talking about, right? Am I
feel like that. I feel like that's true. So maybe if we sum it up, he what's the first thing he did? He got to know them as people, which did a couple of things. It helped them
feel comfortable,
more comfortable, and then at the same time reminded them of the good relationships that they have had in the past. And I think that's something that's very important to resilience, is realizing where you have been if you're in a bad spot in the moment. So I think that was pretty key.
Yeah.
And then the thing that keeps coming back to me as far as resilience goes is, one, the steps that he gave them to do afterwards, like the going on a date, spending time together, basically, is what it was. Setting aside time to talk about things, which is what, like a family council, right? We talk about all of those. All of those things are the habits that help to create as a family. And so that's sort of the introducing part of it, to introduce those ways of resilience. There was one other thing that I was thinking of, but I can't remember it right now.
That's okay. I think I like that these different points, like they really just kind of help provide a guide, I guess like a guideline for a therapist. Like here's like a good outline for a therapy session. And article wrote it really was more in a chronological order of how you would do it. So I think that a therapist can really capitalize on that. Like, here's my basic outline for how I can help this family become more resilient and stuff. So.
It does say, I noticed too, one of the places that I had marked next to was that okay, so it just says efforts can be preventative if we help distressed families develop strengths to avert future crises. So now, you know, he is in there helping them to prevent future issues that might come up. Maybe it be with their next daughter who was a senior and going to be graduating, or with him again. You know, now they're learning how to communicate, to keep those communication lines open, to not forget to go on those dates, to not forget for son and father to take those drives, you know. So the efforts that the therapist puts in or gives them to develop those strengths to avert future crises.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I feel like that's kind of it.
Yeah. I think I'm with you.
Okay. Well, that was all of the questions. This ended up being about 1.5 pages.
Okay. Cool.
The first question, I just kind of have it in bullet points. I listed the what's it called? The point that we observed, and then the example of where it was observed. Like, you know what I mean? What was happening where we observed it. And then the other ones, I just kind of summed up what we just talked about. Just kind of was writing what you guys were saying. So, do you want me to send this to you guys? Or?
No.
Well, I think it says that in the last 15 minutes you were supposed to go over it with us.
You want me to just go ahead and read it?
Yeah, just go ahead and read it, and then.
Okay.
That's good.
Cool. Okay. So, I'll go ahead and just read it then. Okay, the first question. This is what I wrote. We identified several points that were mentioned in our article, such as, and then I've got them listed as bullet points. The first one, reducing negative chain reactions that heighten risk for sustained impact and further crises. Example, the therapist discussed being better about communicating with each other to avoid heightened emotions and yelling at each other. Looking at the positive, the therapist focused on positive moments that family members can have together. And then these ones were really similar, so they're basically the same thing. Bolstering family and efficacy through successful problem mastery. An example, the therapist suggested the husband and wife going on a date and the brother and sister spending positive time together, such as going out for a soda and just talking. Tracking stressors and coping/adaptation processes over time. Example, the therapist asked the family what was working and helped keep track on what was going on by clarifying. Making meaning of crisis experiences. The therapist would ask the family what they thought about what was going on and help them to realize that they all do love each other. Reframing and relabeling. The therapist did a great job at rewording and clarifying what the family was saying and helped communicate it back to them. Those two are actually kind of really similar. That's kind of funny. Whatever this big long word was, depathologizing and contextualizing the problem situation. The therapist would reiterate to the family that these kinds of things are normal, such as the 18-year-old son, or that the 18-year-old son was very typical, that arguing happens, etc. Encouraging shared efforts, concrete steps, and perseverance. Example, the therapist helped the family recognize that this was a group effort, that if one member was going to get better, it required the whole family getting better. So those were all our points we brought up. The next question was spent a lot of time on. So I just wrote, our group members did not necessarily identify all the same points, but we all agreed on them and had a similar point of view. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We didn't really talk about that one very much.
No, yeah.
And then the third one.
Go ahead.
These were our observations. This is probably good that I'm rereading this now that I'm like doing this. Okay. So it says, we were not very surprised by our findings and observations. However, we were able to learn from each other and the different points of view that we each brought up. We feel that this video really exemplified the article and the principles that are taught within it. The therapist was very good at reiterating what the family said and clarified often instead of making his own assumptions. He did a great job at clarifying any assumptions that he did make about their body language or facial expressions. We liked how the therapist had the family members move around during the session and change seating positions. And we noticed that the family reacted very positively to this. The husband and wife held hands more as they sat closer together, and the son was no longer an outcast in the corner, and instead was able to feel more part of the family. We also loved that the therapist helped the son realize that the dad is not as concerned about his son, but more that his wife was upset about it because he loves and cares about his wife. This was a great perspective to take to help the son understand more of the reasonings behind his parents' actions. It appears also that the family already had a resilience built up that created a good foundation for them to fall back on. The therapist helped them to remember this and gave them hope that they could make it through this tough situation. The mom seems to get the most out of the session in learning the perspectives of her family members instead of just being worried, frustrated, and mad. She was able to see that the husband did not grow up in a family that was so enmeshed and involved in each other's lives, which is why he was not as concerned. And then so that was all of that one. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's just I basically just kind of summed up what you guys were saying as you were saying it.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the last one or the last question, I wrote, the therapist first took the time to get to know the family, which helped them feel more comfortable and also helped remind them of their good relationship that they already have. The steps that the therapist gave the family to do afterwards, such as communicating with each other, setting time aside to spend with each other, helped create that a resilient family would have. To create a useful outline for professionals that they can use in helping a family become more resilient. The therapist is there to help prevent future issues that could come up, and these guidelines help him to do exactly that based on his own efforts. Is that good?
Perfect.
Alright. Let me get everybody's names then. Well, I already know your guys' names. Then. Okay, and Tiffany. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Sounds
Okay.
great. So the two things that we need to turn in, right? We have to turn in the summary that Heidi wrote up, and then Tiffany will have the link to the video that needs to be uploaded as well, right?
I hope.
Yes.
Yes. When I hit stop, I'm hoping that
Right.
pops up.
Yeah.
We really hope.
Yeah. If not, I guess we're just out of luck.
It does say like link right here, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Hopefully when I click that. Yeah. So do you want me to send the link, or do you want me to upload the link, or how did you do that last time?
I'm trying to remember what we did. I think
what happened was I included the link on the summary.
Okay, did you do that? Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Oh, okay. So
I know, I couldn't. That's right. I couldn't find the how to turn it in last time. So.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So Ben turned it in for us.
So
Okay, so yeah, if you just send us the link in the email
In our
to
group
our
email,
article.
the one where we said, hey, we're gonna join this group, that one?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, whichever one is hopefully recording.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll send it out, or in the email where we were communicating, the actual email. Which one you wanted in?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send it in the email.
Yeah.
Yeah, just our actual emails is fine.
Okay, perfect. I will send it there, and then you can put it in or copy or paste it or whatever. However it works, so.
All right,
Okay,
and Heidi, are you
awesome.
planning on doing that?
Yeah, I'll turn it in. If I have any problems, I'll message you guys on email.
Okay, sounds good.
Hopefully I don't.
All right, awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
All right, bye,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
See you.